If you have not seen this movie, I'm sure none of this video makes any sense. Um, but know that seeing the movie is not going to help. Um, I saw Cats recently, and it was horrible. But not in the way that I exactly expected. I've seen Cats before, like the musical, like the full show. Not because I wanted to, but because I had four friends who were in a production, in like a local production. Um, I question my ability to choose friends sometimes, but it was a ton of fun. The musical is bonkers. It makes no sense at all. Much like the movie. The movie actually makes a lot more sense than the musical does, which is saying something because the movie still doesn't make any sense. But in the musical, if you've seen the movie, take the plot of the movie and remove any dialogue, all of the jokes, um, the whole boat capture. If you haven't seen the movie, I'll explain this in a second. If you have seen the movie, no boat capture, no disappearing cats, and Victoria's like not the main character, like she is in the musical, but there is no main, you don't follow anybody. In the movie, they tried to give you a main character to follow. The musical doesn't even try that. Um, so those are the changes, I guess, from someone who's seen both. That's the main thing that's different. Okay, I'm gonna need to take a break at this point in my mental breakdown to address why cats as a concept is such a disaster, and I'll put this earlier in the video so that I don't confuse everyone so immediately off the bat. So, Cats is based on T.S. Eliot's um, book of. Okay, Cats is a musical that's based on the 1939 collection Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats by T.S. Eliot. So it's a musical based on a book of poetry. Um, Lots of musicals or adaptations. Lots of times they take, take like Fun Home. That's a graphic novel that they turned into a stage play, and it was great. And take Hamilton is just history, and they made it rap, and people seem to like that. I haven't seen it. Cats is an adaptation of a book of poetry. The problem with that, and with the fact that it's T.S. Eliot, is that poetry's pretty abstract, and you don't need to have things like a main character, or tension, or a plot, or a villain, or character relationships, or a setting, or dialogue, or character traits that aren't expressively stated, or anything. There's no plot in poetry. I don't think someone should have to explain why that's a bad idea, and I hope you're understanding that. So the plot, oh god. Okay, so I'll have to put this section towards the beginning too. If you haven't seen the musical, all that happens is that a cat comes into screen or onto stage and they explain themselves, their name and what they do in a song, and then they stop and then they leave. In the musical, in the movie, they get captured by the villain. Um, that's the whole thing. And if you can, if you read the Wikipedia page beforehand, you'll realize that so it's a clan of cats, and their tradition is to hold like a big dance party and then sacrifice one of the cats and lift them off into heaven, and then they get to like be reborn as a cat. Um, in the musical, they make it pretty and they kind of like lift her off into darkness and they disappear. In the movie, they put her in a hot air balloon and she sails off into a cloud that has the face of a cat on it. And that kind of sums up the difference, because yes, the movie is trying to make it easier to understand and it succeeds in that, but it also sucks any artistic integrity out of it and any subtlety out of it either. There's no subtlety, but also you don't know what they're talking about, which is a hard thing to accomplish. I guess I'll start with like some positives from the movie. Um, the music is actually really good. Like it's composed well and it sounds good. And I don't know if this was intentional. I assume it was, but there's a lot of times where the cats are really, really unsettling. Like the songs they're singing and the way they're moving just kind of skeeve you out. Um, and I feel like if you took this music and gave it a plot and made the actors not cats, you would have something good. Because the musical's written by Andrew Lloyd Webber, who is literally a knight. Like he's Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber because his musical writing is so good. I don't know how knighting works, but also in this movie is Sir Ian McKellen, who is very difficult to understand at all times. But he's only in it. But this movie has broken my brain. I can't. I should have written a script, but I don't think I could. The laptop just has the wave files on it. I'm not looking at anything to keep me on track, which feels like the writing process for whoever wrote the book of this musical. But anyway, there's a point where Sir Ian McKellen, another knight involved in this tragedy, is also just kind of, he's like crawling into the ballroom and he just kind of goes like meow, meow, meow. And that was one of the points in the theater where I burst into laughter. I saw this movie yesterday, which was Wednesday, January 8th, like 3 weeks into the run. This is a pretty populated area, so like there's usually like at least a half full theater just because a movie is playing. There were 10 other people in the theater when I walked in, um, with I brought 3 other people with me. I was not going to see Cats alone. At least 4 of those people walked out during the time of the movie. I couldn't tell if I was laughing too hard and ruined the experience for some people, or if they. It's more likely that they just hated the movie, but they should have seen that coming. I don't know. Some people just like musicals, or they think they like musicals. You don't know if you like musicals until you've seen the worst of them. When my friends were in a production of Cats, they made them like crawl around the like theater beforehand and like do like be in character and like meow and hiss at people and like come up to them. My friend comes up to a row of her friends and we are immediately just breaking down laughing. Like we support each other, but like Cats is the goofiest thing I've ever seen, and it has been forever. And I'm shocked it took people until this movie came out to realize that. Did I say the positive things? Positive things. The music, pretty good. Jason Derulo is actually really captivating, and he has a nice voice um, for a second, and then he kind of ruins it by like mugging the camera and like just going on riffs, just up and down with his voice. He sounds like he's on like a really bumpy roller coaster. But the bulk of his singing is pretty good. I don't know. The performances were fine. Um, yeah, except oh my god, James Corden is so annoying, and Rebel Wilson does nothing but say cat puns, and the two of them have so many fat jokes, and none of them are funny. James Corden literally has. There's a point where he tries to jump into a trash can, and he like lands with the can right between his legs. I just noticed how much of my legs is exposed in this shot. And he lands with he lands on the brim of the can is right between his legs, and there's like a gong sound effect. I think I might have imagined that. I might have put that in there from my brain. But I'm sitting there and I'm like, is this for children? Because children should never look at something that looks like this, or sounds like this, or involves any of the things that this movie involves. I'd heard rumors that the cats in Cats were horny, and I assumed this was non-theater people who don't watch theater, like seeing people in bodysuits for the first time and seeing people like dance with partners really closely because theater's touchy. Everyone's gay, so like nobody cares. Um, I think, but no, um, they were right about. Oh God, sorry, my memory card filled up um, because I was talking about cats for that long. Anyway, um, oh God, yeah, the cats are horny for each other. Like they're so touchy and all the posing, and it was so disturbing because the main problem with this movie is the visuals. If you've seen the stage show, it's just I mean, obviously they don't use CG in the stage show. I'm so dead. This movie murdered me. In the stage show, it's just fur costumes and face paint, typically, which is pretty horrifying up close. In the stage show, though, you don't get up close. In the movie, everything is CG. It kind of looks like if you took the Lion King remake and then put, the Snapchat filter where you can put other people's faces on your face? That, but like for the entire runtime of a movie, and you have to look at James Corden and Rebel Wilson, who are never funny. Rebel Wilson literally says the jokes, what does a cat got your tongue? And am I being a crazy cat lady? In this professional Hollywood $100 million movie. Like, I don't. Is a bomb dropping? I don't like Rebel Wilson or James Corden, but they're expensive comedic actors, I guess. James Corden can sing. The singing was fine. Um, every time I take a pause, it's not because I can't think of what to say, it's because I am broken inside. I have so much to say. The I was pretty. I don't want to ruin anyone's movie going experience ever because I don't. That's just a nice thing to do. But there's a point I was holding in a lot of emotions. There's a point where the railway cat, who is this cat in like red suspenders, and he's no the amount of like what cats are nude and what cats aren't nude is weird too. The railway cat has this big tap dance number, and the whole time I'm like, why isn't he the tap dance cat? Why is he the railway cat? And then they get like transported to a train station, and then they come back. Not important. What is important is at the very end of his song, he starts spinning in a circle, and then he just keeps spinning faster and faster and faster until he takes off from the ground and he's flying through the air, and then he just turns to dust, and I scream. I did not stop laughing for the next 10 minutes. And then my friend who's next to me leaned over and he was like, remember when the railway cat exploded? And then I laughed again and I missed like Jennifer Hudson singing something. I don't know. And the like I forgot, like the villain is like Thanos. He's made, but like slower. That's the kind of laugh that I that was continuous throughout the runtime of this movie and for a while afterwards. When I was walking out of the theater, I was just kind of just like, why did we do that? The villain of this movie is McCavity. If you have not seen this movie, I'm sure none of this video makes any sense. Um, but know that seeing the movie is not going to help. The villain in the movie and kind of in the stage show, not really. He's kind of just like he's just kind of a sketchy cat in the stage show. In the movie, he is Thanos snapping all the cats away after they finish their solo, which is an interesting way to give this bad musical a villain because it doesn't have one. It doesn't have a main character and it doesn't have a villain. And the movie actually added that, which is cool, good. When Cats was fully composed and done, nobody liked it. I mean, from what I've heard, like people kept seeing it, and there were people who were obsessed with it, but I've never heard an explanation of anyone trying to say that it's good. When my friends did their production of Cats, somebody showed up who wasn't in the show in his full costume and makeup. He was just somebody who traveled around like the country seeing productions of Cats like he was chasing it. Honestly, as much as I hate this movie and as much as I was confused seeing the musical, they are experiences that I do not regret. They are because it's not like The Room and it's not like Birdemic. It's not these dumpster fires of pure incompetence. Cats is made by a singular incredible artist who has so much talent. Like you can see it in the music and all in a especially in a musical in a Broadway musical. You can see that all of the actors are fantastic because they pull from a pool of just a huge pool of people who are all great, and they take a great musician and great performers and they put them together, but then everything else is horrible. And the one thing when I watched the musical, I liked the performances, I liked some of the music, and I really liked the stage design. That was my favorite part. And when you do the movie and it's all CG and it looks bad, it looks so bad. You suck anything good out of it. The original song was kind of good because it's one of the only songs in the musical that wasn't a cat introducing himself to everyone else. The very last song of the whole movie is Judi Dench in her cat persona stares directly into the camera. She turns and stares into the camera, and I in the theater went, "Oh no!" out loud. And then she sings to you for a couple minutes about how now that the movie's over, you understand how to address a cat by its name, and how cats are better than dogs. Ha ha, funny, funny joke, funny big laugh. And how you don't need a translator to understand a cat because you understood all of us perfectly. And no, I didn't. Don't go into the theater thinking that you might get it, because I've seen the musical, I've read the whole Wikipedia page just trying. I've had people who acted in the show try to explain it to me. I've read T.S. Eliot before, and then I went to go see the movie, and I just sat there, knowing what I'm supposed to think. And even my level of understanding of this movie is way too much to ask any regular audience member to realize, because I dug to understand what I do, and it's not much. And people are really complaining about how hard to understand this movie is, when it is genuinely like they put training wheels on the musical. The musical is so much more difficult to follow without a main character or a villain. There's one more part I wanted to talk about. Uh, Mr. McCavity's song. On the way to the movie theater, I'm driving. I have two friends in the car with me. One of them who was in the musical when Cats was being performed in my local area. And someone brings up Mr. Mistopheles, who is the magical cat. And I immediately, in my head, I'm going, "Oh, well, was there ever a cat so clever as magical Mr. Mistopheles?" And that that had been in my head since I had seen the musical 3 years beforehand. I still remembered those are the correct words. And I was like, wow, that's weird. Why do I remember that line so specifically? And then I get to the movie, and that song feels like it is played back to back twice. Like it's one of those things where like he sings it himself and he tries to use his magic and then it doesn't work and everyone's like, oh, and then like two other people try to sing it with him and then he tries to use his magic and everyone's like, oh no, and then everybody joins in and they all sing it together and it's like triumphant and stuff, and then he tries to use his magic and it doesn't work, and then somebody else comes in and just they sing it by themselves, and he tries to use his magic, and it doesn't work. And then a small section sings it again, and then he tries to use his magic, and it doesn't work. And then everybody joins in, and then he tries to use his magic, and then it works. And then they keep singing the refrain for minutes, and I felt like I was in that part of Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. The tunnel where you're the spinning and just Gene Wilder screaming and you're scared and you just want it to stop, but it doesn't show any signs of stopping. And I think that kind of sums it up. I don't know if that made any sense, but I have a lot of feelings about this movie, and I wanted to yell them into a microphone. Um, Thank you very much. Zoe, say hi. Um, I think that's gonna do it. Say bye-bye.